Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans, March 22nd today. The topic for today, both level 1 and level 2, is the Merkaba. And I'm going to use tons of diagrams and imagery and my super fancy cardboard diagrams there in order to tell you what this is. Yeah. And we're commiserating in the little break before we got started here about how rainy and horrible the weather is right now and how there's very little sunlight to eat. So I think we're all feeling it. Definitely my levels of whatever, my energy levels. It's like you need external battery power, like feeling low, get the external battery power going. Because I have spoken on previous lessons how we do sun gazing in order to get the energy to do all of this. So it's time for like connecting in non-line of sight if you can possibly. So let me just start off with tons of photos. And I know I make silly faces when I scroll through all of these. So, okay. What am I even talking about? Oh, and there's an extensive animation that has been created for all of this. And I'll tell you all about the animation too. And I'll link to the animation. How it doesn't work perfectly when I share it through this Zoom. Otherwise, I would share it through the Zoom. So I will save the link and be able to share that with you guys. Okay, Merkaba, these 3 syllables, it means light body vessel. And this is information that comes to us by way of the ancient mystery schools. Mystery schools were like esoteric traditions of hidden knowledge. They only gave that knowledge to special initiated participants because it was something where if it were widely disseminated, all of this knowledge would have been wiped out because this is actually incredibly potent and incredibly valuable. So I'll speak to that, and I'll also speak to the idea that some people say, but the Merkaba has been corrupted, but blah, 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 and don't use it. And I said earlier in the Facebook intro that I think that that's totally erroneous. Like, it's like saying the color red. Someone used the color red to paint an ugly painting, so never use the color red in your painting. Like that, I do not agree with that. And I personally find this to be an incredibly valuable technique for, there's 3 basic things, and I speak about this in the video that I'll link to. It is for protection. That can be personal protection for like your body, or you can protect an object like your car or your computer, or you can protect your bank account. Like I want to protect my bank account from hackers. I can put a Merkaba around it. Or anything that you want to protect, you can protect a planet with a Merkaba. So what Merkaba means, light body vessel, and what I'm referring to is this basic star tetrahedron shape. Okay, now let me get to like a color that you can see here. This basic star tetrahedron shape. What is a tetrahedron? It is a pyramid that is made of equilateral triangles, and it has 4 sides. So I'm just outlining that in blue very briefly there. Let me go on to the next one. Scroll through first before I get going too much. Here's that same image, same shape, but from a different viewpoint. And so I'm also going to get in level 1, right now I'm going to speak extensively about how we actually do this. So I'm showing you a picture of it. That's like if I were to show you a picture of, someone doing a waltz, but it's actually, there's things that you actually do in order to perform this correctly. And I'll go through the steps of how to perform it correctly. So some of the main things that I would like to bring to your attention in this is, see this big green dot that I'm making? That is like a pointy vertex that sticks out from one of the tetrahedra. And it sticks out right at the point of your heart. And then the other one, this pen, I have to just move this little, there we go, so that I can draw down at the bottom of the screen. I'm making a red dot. That's actually like at the, not the front of the body, that's actually coming out like behind the base of the spine, behind the booty. That is the other complementary vertex that points outward from that level of the chakra system. And if I go back, you'll see it in this picture again too. So we've got, here we go. I know I make squinty faces too. This is one aspect of anatomy to focus on. The point that is sticking outward from your heart. And another crucial aspect to focus on is this one that is pointing outward from the base of your spine. So Merkaba, this also is all about connecting, we could say, the earthly realm. Here I'll just draw like a big giant blue planet down there that we are connecting with the lower vertex, and the solar/stellar realm. Here's the sun with all of its beautiful rays down here. So, and just choosing a different color. And what we're doing is essentially connecting these 2 realms by creating these 2, and I'll get to all the questions, these 2 complementary rotating pyramids. Let me scroll through the rest of the pictures, then I'll get to your comments and questions. So I did that one, I did that one. Okay, this is a still shot from that animation. I'm gonna, like I said, be sure that everyone has access to it, and I shared it in all of the emails and everything like that. So the animation shows very clearly how this all begins. You know, like a person is sitting, okay, how do we do this? I sit with my legs crossed the way that this figure has it in there, called Indian style, whatever, from the Far East. Yeah, so I mean, whatever, I'm sitting on kind of this high, you know, art chair over here. But yeah, usually I don't sit on a chair like this. I cross my legs, and the reason why I like to do that is, just grabbing a color, it makes almost like a bowl shape down here. Just like when I was talking about doing sun gazing, how it's most effective to sit like that because it feels like there's an actual receptive, like vessel. This is your light body vessel. This is your vessel. This is, I want to say to everyone, this is your starship. That's what I'm trying to say. Literally, this is your starship. And there are stages to learn how to do it properly. Or just like saying your body can run a marathon. Yes, it can run a marathon. It's necessary to do blah, blah, blah amount of training before you do a marathon or before you swim, whatever, 20 miles or any kind of thing like that. So the first thing is recognizing when you're sitting in this position, it naturally makes like this front edge, you know, where your knees connect, and naturally makes like each thigh makes the other sides of the triangle. And then the other one is very easy to envision also, because what I usually envision is like there's a face plate in front of my face, and then there is that portion that is sticking forward from my heart. Okay, let me go to the next image. Oh, and one of the other aspects of this image, wait, before I move on, this one shows very clearly. So the idea is, yeah, you've got the upward pointing pyramid, the downward pointing pyramid, and you begin with getting them rotating. And that's like pressing run on a computer program. And that's a big part of this, is like being able to mentally juggle all those plates, you keep all those plates spinning, juggle all those things at the same time. And you know that you're doing it right when you feel this column of light that goes up and down through your spine, through the center of your own being, and is connecting the bottom vertex of the shape, the top vertex of the shape, and that's like connecting the earthly realm, or the lower, not less valuable, but lower in dimensional tone with the higher dimensional tone, and you're being like a bridge. Okay, moving on to the next one. So this one is really crucial because it's actually from a painting. It's just the drawing from a painting that I did, but I'm just showing you it's like showing you the skeleton so you can see things more easily, because I'm always showing you this yellow sculpture, right? And this is made out of all circles and curvilinear and no straight lines. But when we look at the star tetrahedron, thank you very much. This is from Merkaba Chakra 1, and I'll even show you like from the finished piece too. But like when I add all of the color in the finished painting, sometimes it can be hard to see what the actual line drawing is. So the idea is that your star tetrahedron, Merkaba, energetic immune system, has straight lines. Like here I'm highlighting straight lines, but it relates to this shape that is made all out of curvy lines. So now let me try to do this properly with this pen, because the pen is not always very exact. But there's one, and here's the other one down at the bottom. And in this painting, what I actually have is like half of a chakra, because remember, what I've got is one that's going around at this orientation and one that's going around at this orientation. So that is what makes a full chakra or energy center. But in this painting, what I did was a simplification of just one of the tori or donut shapes, so that you could see what it looks like. So there's one basic one, and then you can see these smaller nested ones that go all the way down, and they all converge at the big red dot that I just drew down there. So I don't want to ruin everything by putting red lines over it, but you see it's kind of like a cross section of half of one of these. And now I'll get a different color and highlight in this other color, just trying to move this little gear around the straight edges, and then you can see how they all relate together. And bear with me if my drawing isn't perfect, and I'm sure you can use your imagination in order to see this more perfectly. Literally, use your imagination, like to tune in. Okay, I don't know if my pen went all the way down to the bottom of the screen. Okay, no, that one didn't go quite right, but try to make it go right. There, bam, oh my goodness, that was difficult. So now you can see, yeah, this is literally called Merkaba Chakra 1. It's the drawing for that painting, and I'll show you the painting too. And I think that I have this available on like my print service, and if not, I can upload it if person wants that, or whatever. I mean, whatever, if you want the file, like I can send you a file of what it looks like if you want to be able to like keep this for your inspiring images. So you can see that there's a relationship between this, thank you very much, Sarah Jane, I appreciate that. There's a relationship between this shape that is made out of straight edged, like pointy polygons, and the one that is made in red out of nothing but the curvilinear circles. Okay, let me clear that out and just go, and I'll get to more of your questions. I respect very much. People make the best comments and are very insightful. So wait, okay, this is the final thing. This is vessel, which Merkaba chakra 1 and 2 were studies or precursors for this larger painting. So those are 24-inch paintings. This one is a 48-inch painting. And I was just squinting closer to be able to see. I'm going to outline this because I don't know if you can see it, but the painting has a lot of complexity in it. So there are some areas where, here, let me see if I can draw this properly. Here is one star tetrahedron shape. Do it properly. It's hard to see. Boom, there we go. Let me erase. And then over here, what we've got is what it looks like when they overlap, because I gave you before half a chakra, but this is what happens when we get a full chakra together. So that's a horrible drawing, but you can see what I'm talking about. One goes like that, and then we have one that goes like this. So they are at 90-degree complementary angles. And none of these are static objects. All of these are dynamic, moving, whirling, and twirling objects. And so this painting is called Vessel, and what it shows is many of these Merkaba, plural, energy field star vessels connected together, because that's the whole idea, is that this is how experts do star travel. That's what I told you. Lesson 1 is going to be the first 2 aspects, personal protection and manifestation, and the responsibilities involved in those 2 things. And then the level 2 is going to be about interdimensional travel. And this is like expertise, advanced jazz band. And you don't have to do it on your own. You can do it with friends. In fact, let me show you, I'll show you one more good picture and then get to questions and comments. While I'm on, like I try to stay on track. I'm staying on track, guys. This is what I wanted to show you. So this is a detail from the painting called Birth of a New Dimension. It's like the lower third of the painting. And what you can see, where's the pen? Good. So first of all, we've got, now my thing can't show. Hold on a second. Better. Oh, now I'm making it work great. First of all, I think you can see here's one face, here's another face, here's the arms, legs, one figure, here's another figure. There's 2 figures there, right? And they're both sitting within their chakra system. Here's one chakra. Here, can I draw this properly? Here's one, like this, right? With big giant circles going out to the side. And then here's the other one. These are 2 people that are actually interconnected through their overlapping chakra system. And now in a different color, I'm highlighting their interconnected Merkaba systems. Boom. Get to that question in a second. So this is just one example of what happens when we have 2 people that join together. It's almost like a molecular bond in order to do this interdimensional flight together. And it doesn't just have to be 2 people. Like, I don't want this to be confused with romantic partnership or any kind of like dating or marriage or anything like that. As I showed you in that larger picture called Vessel, it can be many, many people. Now let me get to questions and comments, and then we'll get into the more meat and potatoes. Okay, hold on a second here. All right. All right, someone's mentioning Drunvalo. This is, Joel is mentioning Drunvalo. Yes, he's got his own particular technique. So I'll just say, I'm not a full endorsement of his work or anything like that. I respect his work and have Drunvalo as being the person that reinitiated most humans into the concept of both the flower of life and the Merkaba and the basic practices, because as I said, it had been held in abeyance, like something that is held in trust for a very long time, because otherwise the information would have been stamped out. But that this was like basic kindergarten, ABCs and 1, 2, 3s for back in Atlantis, that this is like what everybody is supposed to learn. So this is not some advanced teaching only for special people, not at all. Although you do have to have responsibility if you use it just like driving a car. Merkaba is very similar to a car. It's a vehicle. So you have to be responsible in the way that you use it and where you go with it. Okay, back to Pedro asks, so if you use a Merkaba to protect the world, your family is included, or you need a specific Merkaba for each one? Good question. I would say the more specific, the better. And we'll get into what each pyramid relates to. So when I'm talking about that, remind me, Pedro wants to know about specifics, and I'll get to that because I need a picture in order to more effectively answer your question. Joe asks, is cross-legged mandatory? No. Or can we imagine we have a bowl when we can't sit cross-legged? Totally not mandatory, because sometimes, like when I wake up in the morning, I told you my sun is facing my window rather is facing the sun, and the sunlight comes directly into my eye. So it's not like I sit in my bed cross-legged. I'm lying down there with my spine flat, and I also recognize not everybody's knees or hips or whatever allow them to sit cross-legged. Do what feels comfortable to your particular body. It's exactly like if you were going to play the piano or the saxophone. You're like, do I have to hold my shoulders like this? No, you don't. What matters is the tone of the music that you're playing, not whether your body position is absolutely according to some, whatever orthodox template that other people are telling you. So yeah, I appreciate sitting with my legs crossed when it's possible, but guess what? Sometimes I need to do the Merkaba when I'm driving. What am I supposed to do? Like pull over in traffic? It's nothing is like that at all. So one of the other things is recognizing that at first it takes a concerted effort and it might feel clunky and it might feel difficult. And then at a certain point, it becomes simple, like tying your shoelaces. Like I'm sure everyone can remember, like when you were a little kid, you're like, okay, over, under, make the bunny's ears tie together. It took like concentration. It was difficult to do. And now you're like, oh, let me just tie my shoes and then we'll go out for a walk. Like it's easy now. So this is what happens. It becomes much more easy and fluid the more that one practices. It's just like practicing an instrument. Okay. All right. Joel says, question for later. What is the difference between the star tetrahedron and the stars we know, like in the American flag? The American flag is 5-pointed stars. The star tetrahedron has 6 points on it. Although the 6-pointed star has been adopted as the flag of Israel and a symbol of Judaism and the Jewish religion, it is not like it's only for Jewish people. Just like Christ consciousness and accessing this level of your anatomy and being able to perceive higher dimensional, time and consciousness is not only for Christian people. So I'm trying to it's a symbol that's been co-opted. I understand that and utilized and projected upon, but that it's just like, it is what it is. It's a literal empirical thing. Just like I paint these maps of time, they're literal places. It's not like I'm interpreting it and putting a lot of anthropomorphic interpretation on it. So it is what it is, but then humans have put a lot of heavy anthropomorphic interpretation on it. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Patricia says, can we put a Merkaba around the planet safely and effectively? The answer is yes, yes, yes. But it's just like if you're going to build a bridge. Like that's not something that you just do as a regular person. You get together a whole team of people, like expert bridge builders, and you measure and you do things properly. Like it's not just a loosey-goosey or individual effort, and I would encourage everyone to it's like a symphony. Like in order to be part of a symphony, you know what you do? Practice your own stuff in your own bedroom or in your own studio and master your own thing, and then be prepared to integrate your own music perfectly because you've done your homework as a singular being with all the rest of the beings. So yes, we're in the process of creating this planetary Merkabah. Practice on your own first and then integrate your music with others. Okay. Rachel says, from my Taoist inner alchemy work, the Merkaba pyramid forms are Atlantean technology and feels different to the spherical work that we do. It's way more powerful and takes some practice to control and keep alignment. That is, I think, very accurate. It takes practice and control. It's just like I keep saying, it's like playing an instrument, like to be able to make the tones of a violin or something like that. I'll get to that question too. It takes practice to make the tones sound nice and pleasant. Sarah Jane asks, is the star tetrahedron a two-dimensional shape of the Merkaba? That is exactly right. Like the star tetrahedron is what happens when we take two equilateral pyramid tetrahedra and put them together. So now we're getting going on the math, all right? Get ready, everyone. So what I have here are 8 shapes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And each one of these shapes is an equilateral triangle. It has 3 sides that are all the same length, and 3 angles that are all the same angle, and all these angles are 60 degrees. 60 degrees, 60 degrees, 60 degrees. And 60 degrees and hexagonal grids, that is basically how we understand and integrate on a cellular structure. the body, the cellular grid of your body and how your cells fit together in the physical world is based on angles of 60 degrees. And this has to do with carbon molecules and frozen water. When water freezes into ice crystals, it makes these beautiful 60-degree angles, okay? So first, we're just gonna start off with, what is a tetrahedron? I'm fiddling on camera, check it out. This is a pyramid that has 4 equilateral sides. This is different than the pyramid at Egypt, the Great Pyramid at Giza, which has a square bottom. We'll get to that in level 2, all right? So just first understanding that we've got one like that, and then let me fiddle with the next one, and one like this. And of course, because they are solid cardboard, I cannot make them interpenetrate each other. But if I hold it up to the camera, I know you're getting lots of visual, like, overexposure. Let's see if I can fiddle about, hold it properly, not getting it. There we go, roughly, there we go, roughly like that, okay? Wonderful. This is what the shape is shaped like, and most of my drawings are, you know, 2-dimensional interpretations using the magic of perspective to try to depict this. Let's first talk about the upward pointing pyramid. I'm not going to call this the male pyramid and the female pyramid because we're like, I think, getting very confused by all that kind of thing, but let's call this like the active pyramid and the receptive pyramid, because all of this is about being in balanced partnership with the cosmos. It's cosmic lovemaking. The first thing that I do is envision the upward pointing pyramid when I start my practice. And so again, like I've got, these are my 2 knees in the front, and then this is like back behind my spine over here. I've got this flat face plate in front of my face. And when I say active, it means specific. Like see how it points upward? It's like saying, I'm specifically asking for something. So, okay, protection is different than asking for something. So I should start off with just protection, but I wanted to say that this is the pyramid of being specific, and this is the pyramid of being receptive, or we could call it intuitive, or we could call it you know, non-specific, to being open to guidance. Because sometimes you're like, I want a very particular thing, but then sometimes you're like, dealer's choice might be even better. And this is about a balance between these 2 things. So first, for protection, I create the upward pointing pyramid, then I envision the downward pointing pyramid like this, and then I just get them spinning around my body. And like I told you, if you do it right, you feel that central column of light spinning up and down throughout you. And what I used to have to focus a lot more, just like tying my shoelaces very laboriously, but now I just do a very quick little gesture like that. And that's like saying, like shields up. This is your immune system, your energetic immune system. It is a reaffirmation of the idea that you are like the master of your own vessel. You are the artist of your life. You are the author writing the screenplay of what you wish to have happen. So let me give you first an example of what Merkaba protection can feel like. So I do my Merkaba protection for myself every day before I do the flying rainbow lasagna dance, several times a day. Like I do it before I hop in my car. I'm like, shoot, just gonna put a quick little Merkaba around my body and around my actual car. And sometimes what I even do is do a quick little Merkaba envisioning my pathway from where I am at my home to my destination. Like I'm just going to protect myself going there and also protect myself coming back. And you know, you can put a Merkaba around anything that you want to protect. Like let's say you've got some big business deal going on, like I'm trying to sell my house or whatever, or sell your business, and you want to make sure that everything goes good. Put your Merkaba protection around the idea of that thing that you want to protect. So here's an example of using the Merkaba for protection. I put it around myself, and you know, it's spinning. It's like your immune system. It's going. And I was cooking some breakfast, and I'm not a vegetarian. I'm not a vegan, and I was cooking bacon for breakfast, and I use very good, you know, pigs that are not raised in confinement and like fed a high quality diet. Like I'm just reassuring all of you that I eat very like high quality animal products when I eat them. But the point is, I was pouring off the bacon grease to go into a glass jar. And when I picked up the glass jar, it had cracked and I didn't know it. And so all of that very hot liquid bacon grease went all over the place. But because I had my shields up from earlier in the day, it all went on like the behind the sink. It went on the floor. It went every place else except me, my face and my chest. That is what I'm talking about. So it's not like saying like nothing untoward will ever happen to you. Something might happen, But if you've got your shields up, you're protected from like the negative impact, from the blowback, from the difficulty of something like that happening. So it's like a shield, a protection. It protects you from events that you don't wish to experience. So in this class, I speak all the time about how this is a map of events. It's timelines of your life, and what determines your timeline, whether we're going up the central core, whether we're heading towards the membrane of death. And our DNA dance is what makes us experience certain events. This is another tool. This Merkaba is another tool for blocking out or reflecting away events that you don't want. So just like you can have, and so these things get spinning, and you say, let's say you have a piece of energy that's coming towards you. If this is spinning like a mirror, kapow, it blocks that energy away. Let's say this is the spinning of horrible burns from bacon grease, kapow, that spin blocks that away. It's a probability or a likelihood in time that has been reflected away. And at the same time, when you've got the other one, you know, when you've got these interpenetrating, you've got certain places where there are clefts, vertices. I'll get the picture and show you what I'm talking about. Where those vertices are, those are receptive areas. So if I go to a picture after squinting and scrolling. Okay, these flat faces here are like mirrors, you know, that bounce away energy. But these areas here that are like clefts are receptive areas. So let's say you've got wonderful, you know, loving energy. You want to make sure that that can actually come inside. So that is how that is actually able to come inside. So it's not like you're blocking yourself off from everything in the entire world. You're blocking yourself off from wrong notes that you don't want to have to hear and you don't want to have to deal with. So the whatever receptivity, this is you know, part of love, part of cosmic love making. So the first, and that's the very first thing, is mastering this for protection. So you perform this meditation by envisioning it. Like you use your imagination. Once again, I say this again, your imagination is not nothing. It's very, very important and very, very vital. It is like, it's the strongest muscle on your body is your imagination. And it's literally the projector that we use to create everything that we have around us. So yeah, people tell their kids, your imagination is nothing. That's nothing. It's just your imagination. No, your imagination is everything. So we perform the Merkaba by imagining it or envisioning it in very clear details around us. And that's a practice that takes time to do. So first you begin with just protection. And then the next thing is moving up towards actual manifestation. And this is just like when you're a little kid, like first you're flailing around, then you start to learn to control your body and you can kind of crawl an inch along. Then you start to learn to walk and you get to actually go someplace. So how do we do this for actual reality manifestation? And let me, because that's actually starting to become like a participant, a cosmic participant. You're not just a lump that sits there, like, you know, a little tiny infant. You're actually starting to become a toddler that toddles around and does stuff, okay? So the very first thing is, I was making that distinction between active and receptive. It's wish making. And with all of this, one must take responsibility for one's wishes. So in order to make an effective wish or manifest one's inner desires, first you begin with the upward pointing pyramid, very specific desires. And I always use dessert as an example. If you say, I want to have Cherry Garcia ice cream in a blue dish on Tuesday, and then like that's your, you know, specific what you want. But then in your receptive pyramid, you think the thoughts of, I want something that's like cold, sweet, creamy, that reminds me of summertime, that feels celebratory, that's like reward food. And then after you've filled up both of these complementary aspects of self, then you press run on the cosmos. And so I'm a female and I do this in a way that feels comfortable to me. I begin with the pyramid that points downward, and this vortex, remember, sticks out from my heart, and I get that one spinning around to the left. And then I get the one that's like a faceplate in front of me with this point sticking out behind my spine. I get that one spinning around to the right. When you check out my animation, you will see exactly what this looks like. Some people say males should spin in the opposite or complementary manner. I would say I'm not a male, so I don't know what feels good for males, but try it out and figure what feels best for you. All of this is like, how do you hold your paintbrush? How do you sit with your posture at the piano? Figure out what works well for you. So yeah, I do my spinning, and spinning is like pressing run on the computer program of reality. You are becoming a you know, co-creative programmer, even though I'm not a transhumanist, but we're just using that language structure. of making a computer program. And when you press run, then it's like, okay, now it's actually going to be manifested. So one example that I can give you of me actually doing this was, I'm just making sure everyone is muted so I don't have feedback, but I appreciate everyone who's coming on in. Back when I was in Woodstock, so this is like already like 5, 6, 7 years ago, I was practicing my Merkaba and I sat in meditation and I was thinking about a chocolate bar, which now seems like, you know, a very, whatever, not essential thing to be thinking about, and had my Merkaba running. And then I went out for my little walk and walked to the coffee shop down the street and I saw the exact chocolate bar that I had been envisioning right there. And it had all these patterns that I printed on the candy wrapper, and I said like, wow, that's pretty impressive confirmation. And that's just like when you're a little kid and you're like, I'm gonna see if I can stand up and kind of like walk over there, and you kind of like toddle on over and you make it and you do it pretty well. And now I'll give an example of like something that did not go exactly well. So I was, you know, like this is years ago when I was in Woodstock and I was struggling a lot as an artist, and I was just thinking like, I should just have a pile of money, just a pile of cash fall right in my lap. And that is what I thought, like very specific. And, you know, did my running of my program, and literally like maybe a day or so after I thought those, and I was very like, whatever, passionate and specific and a little bit rock and roll about my way of thinking about it. And I had a tangential acquaintance come to my front door, knock, 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 and was like, hey, can you just hold on to the suitcase for me for a little while? And I'm like, you know, without giving any details or anything like that, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll just put that in my closet over here. And of course I had to look to see what was inside, and I looked to see what was inside, and it was piles of cash, but clearly not piles of cash that I could actually use and spend. It wasn't my money to spend. It was, you know, actually something that probably endangered me by even having it. And then they came by the next day and they picked it up. One can only imagine where that money came from, why they wanted me to hold it, or any kind of details like that. We don't really need to get into that. But the point is, it was kind of like, ha ha, from the cosmos, like, oh, here's a pile of cash that fell in your lap, but it wasn't actually stuff that you can use. So it's really good when you're being specific. It's like almost like writing a contract and say, hey, you know, if you need whatever, if I need $50 to pay my electric bill, then I'll say, I need $50 to pay my electric bill, and I don't need like funny money. I don't need counterfeit money. I don't need anything, any cruelly ironic monkey paw wish fulfillment like that. There's like a myth or like a story of the monkey's paw where you get this magical implement, but every wish that you make, it goes horribly awry. So someone who's like, you know, whatever they you know, whatever you wish for, it's like you get the exact specific fulfillment of your wish, but only in horrible, ironic misinterpretation. So you have to be really cautious of that. But it's not meant to be like a cosmos where, yes, Joelle says you can add for my highest good. In writing your own particular wishes or making your contracts with the cosmos, that's essential. I would say be very specific and also say, I ask this, it's equivalent or greater, not harming anyone, not taking anything away from anyone. Because what we're trying to do is learn to be good musicians. And this is like jazzing it up a little. It's like saying, okay, I want to make some new melody, but you got to make sure that the melody that you make is actually harmonically well integrated and complementary to all of the other reality events that are already happening. Because let's say, yeah, Beth is saying not ultra literal. Sometimes the cosmos can be ultra literal, just like, you know, in computer jargon, it's like garbage in, garbage out. But it's a very loving cosmos. So I don't want everyone to be so afraid of being like smacked down, like, how dare you try to use your creativity? It's not like that. Like in some art and music schools, you know, if like you play the wrong note, then it's like, whack, you did a bad job. This is not that type of teacher. This is the type of teacher that's like, oh, that sounded not so good. Please try again. So, you know, clearly I've had my own journey of making sour notes and having my wishes not really right, and then begin to come forward. And so I also want to remind everyone also, we're in a distorted funhouse. We're not in this perfect hall of mirrors, as I've described extensively in some of the other webinars, that we have these other human beings that are distorted mirrors, and the time field itself that is like warbly instead of nice straight pieces of glass. You know, it's like concave or convex. So you can send out wonderful good stuff, but not necessarily have that good stuff reflected back, because we're in a distorted funhouse. So if you're working really, really hard on your Merkaba and on your manifestation, and your words are perfect and your intention is perfect and all this, and you still, you know, aren't in a mansion sitting on a golden toilet, you say, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I not getting this? It's because you're in a distorted funhouse. So part of this is also understanding that we're in this context, that we're cleaning up all of the muddy footprints. We're cleaning up all of the impediments that are genetic impediments, consciousness impediments, social programming, social structure, and what's happening on the planet at large. So once again, the approach to all of this is begin with your own personal journey, and then that perfect yourself, and then that perfection connects with others who are also perfect, and then it begins to radiate outward. Let me just drink. And let me get to more questions too. And I have to check the time. Sorry, ducking off camera over here. Okay, good. I have plenty of time on this recording. Okay. So Joel is saying, in Kundalini Yoga, they practice something with the arms held at 60 degrees, and that is a fascinating connection. Right on. And in part 2, we'll get into 60 degrees turning into 90 degrees and how we travel through time. Pedro says, if you rotate the Merkaba, you can form a sphere. I remember Aurora told me the more complex, the better. Absolutely. Ronald says, finding others to talk about anything Merkaba. We all need to FRL and manifest an environment where we can put a Merkaba around the earth. Okay, so in my personal practice each day when I'm doing the Flying Rainbow Lasagna dance, and for anyone who needs, you know, refresher, this is the Flying Rainbow Lasagna shape. Before I do this shape, and so in the webinars where I talk about how to dance like a Flying Rainbow Lasagna, one of the first steps is do your Merkaba. So first I do sun gazing, I get my car full of gas, I'm ready to go. Then the next thing I do is shields up, do my Merkaba. And then the next thing that I do is begin to dance my DNA in these new complex formats and patterns. And yes, as I've said, the more variables and the more, what is the word, unpredictable you can be in the music that you're coming up with, the better protected you are against infiltration by the AI or machine-based intelligence that is ancient. And I'm not just talking about the terrestrial technosphere or any kind of big brother surveillance system from the government looking at us on our tablets. I'm talking about something way more profound that has been trying to hijack our DNA and hijack our biology for millennia. That's, you know, what came to our planet. And what we're doing right now is healing that. So, okay, we'll also talk about creating a planetary Merkaba. So I also, in my Flying Rainbow Lasagna, you know, this is a personal dance, but it's connected to all of the other life that's here, and all of our guitars are vibrating sympathetically. I envision a star tetrahedron Merkaba around the planet. Like, I don't pretend, it's like holding up the entire bridge, like whatever, like the Golden Gate Bridge with your own shoulders. Like, that's not what I'm trying to do or anything like that. But I'm like, I am one bridge worker that is holding that up. And so as we begin to become a telepathic society, this is pretty big. I'll drink some water here. We're all, like when I say we're little infants or kindergartners, we're learning how to toddle and walk. It's not condescending. We're all at this level. We're learning how to use our higher faculties. We're learning how to use telepathy to speak to one another, not with a cell phone, but with our internal cell phone. We're learning how to see through time or perceive the future or the multiple possibilities of different timelines accurately. We're learning how to perceive influences, like who is speaking through a person, you know, through the anthropomorphic filter. You learn like what is actually in a person's mind, what is actually in their DNA, what is actually like their recipe of their persona, where is that actually coming from. So all of that preparation is all about like preparing to become a good musician. That the more that we are able to, I'll get to that question too. So I showed you that picture called Vessel. That is about all of these fitting together. That's what we're supposed to do. So I've said many times, I'm a star person. And I've just told you in this recording that this is a star vessel, that this is how experts do star travel, not in a clank metal spaceship, but in energy fields that are powered by pure love and that are fit together interlocking. So all of this is like, you have to make your own Merkaba spin. You have to handle your own personal metabolism. No one else can metabolize for you. But you don't have to do the journey completely alone. In fact, it's much more easy, fun, and gratifying. Just looking at my lights here as the sun is setting and everything is going changing. It's much more fun, easy, and gratifying, just like running a marathon. You have a bunch of different people running with you and be like, keep going, like we can do it. So yeah, there's definitely other people whose energy fields will impede this. So I found some people like, wow, it's harder for me to do my Merkaba around that guy. Just like sometimes if you're trying to sing the perfect notes, and like that guy over there is really flat and it's hard to sing the perfect notes around them. That is very truthful. And if you're being a good musician, you're surrounded by other good musicians, then it makes it easier to use these techniques and to move through time. So, and don't get me on this whole thing of like the necessary didactic whatevers of, you know, having to run with weights on your ankles. Like, no, we're past that level. None of this has been necessary and didactic also. Like living in a fun house of distorted mirrors instead of a perfect world of where what you send out is reflected back to you. Like that's not necessarily helping us to learn at all. All that we've learned is we're in a distorted or very effed up system and that we have to rectify it and like fix and heal things. Like that's not really teaching us anything, because real lessons are the lessons that translate out of this level of experience. And when you really learn and master something that you're like, oh, I learned that on Earth in the body of a human. Now I can apply that lesson to blah, blah, blah other times and places. But if all that you've learned is distorted systems exist, then it's like you don't have to spend your time mastering a distorted system. It's like learning how to speak a totally screwed up, convoluted, you know, wrong language. It's like that's great. You learned how to communicate with a bunch of other people using a distorted language, but it's not a language that translates into other, you know, more effective things. Okay. Infinity Cell says, unconditional love is music for the highest good. Having the imagination to see notes like that in the physicality dream is true mastery. I absolutely agree. So part of this learning to do your Merkaba is absolutely a journey of unconditional love. I'm trying to say to everyone, it's a very loving symphony. It's a very loving composer. It's a very loving, even bandmates, that it's not like, oh, you played a wrong note, like you're kicked out of the band. It's a symphony of life. And what we're really trying to do is improve all of our individual and collective existences. And this has everything to do with the planet, planetary existence. And I can show you this picture also. I keep pointing to the picture that's actually on my wall, but let me just show you the picture on screen. It's this. Can't find it. Hold on a second. Sorry, I'm making you wait so long. No, that's not a giant cheese pizza in the background. That's actually the sun. And this painting depicts Earth's formerly toroidal or donut-shaped energy center. Hold on a second. There we go. Let's see if I can get this. Here, I know, because I don't know if you can see these dots, but there's lots and lots of dots over here. And this is the toroidal energy system or magnetosphere going around the planet, transforming into the flying rainbow lasagna, which is the higher dimensional version of that. So this is what is happening on the planet. This is the birth of a new dimension. It's not just our own, we're individual cells on a much, much larger body. So our individual journey has everything to do with the collective larger planetary journey. And big insight is also that it's not just what we are doing on this planet. Like this planet has been invaded. Our genetic basic blueprints have been changed, but we're not the only planet this has ever happened to. It's happened on many other planets too. And our fight for freedom here has everything to do with that collective fight for freedom that's spread out throughout many, many different places, all throughout the entire galaxy, throughout many different timelines. So this is a tool for freedom. This is a tool for freedom. That's what I'm trying to tell everyone. Yes, to protect yourself from negative thought entities. So I have a whole lesson that's all about self-protection from negative thought entities. It's lesson 18. It's where we get into galactic history, and I held it for the end of the semester, but now I just bring it out all the time, and it's a standalone class too. So this is one of the techniques, that is how to protect yourself from those pesky occupiers of the interstices. Guess what? This is also something that you can do to protect yourself from synthetic telepathy and harmful and erroneous electromagnetic fields. Like when you just do the Merkaba just to protect yourself. And that's also, it's like running on a treadmill. It's like first you run on a treadmill and then you get good enough and then you're ready to run a marathon. But it's like when you begin to go into these purely mental realms, like realms of pure consciousness, where you're journeying using your mind or your thought structure or your non-physical aspect of self, You have to be super strong. It's like going in the ocean where there's tons of waves and all these different currents that can knock you off course. And you have to be able to be super focused in your consciousness, like coherent light. I've spoken about that in previous recordings. Coherent light, like laser light, where all the peaks and all the troughs line up together, and that light beam continues continuously, endlessly. It doesn't stop, it doesn't disperse, as opposed to like light that's coming out of my my regular light bulb over here that gets all spread out. It doesn't end up moving in a perfectly focused beam. So what we are trying to do is focus our minds or our consciousnesses, like not your human hacked operating system mind, but your true mind, your true consciousness. Keep that focused and coherent so that if we are not connected to the physical denser realm, we still are able to control and direct ourselves as we go along. So using this tool for protection, that means that it's harder for those hackers to hack into your mind. Do you understand? This is why little kids were taught this, like as some of the basic stuff growing up in Atlantis. Like, hey, you got to protect yourself because, you know, there's all this kind of crapola out there. So yeah, each one of us has to learn to protect ourselves. And again, I don't believe that it's necessary or didactic, but this is just like the world that we're living in. So the first thing is mastering self-protection. And then the second thing is mastering manifestation. And that is another tool for empowerment. So it's like you're not quite ready to have the keys for the car and drive wherever you want to and drive to Times Square. But what you are ready to do is begin to explore what happens when you begin to manifest your inner desires as an outer manifested event. And that also relates to the flying rainbow lasagna, because I say all the time, this combines the inner and the outer. Here, if I use my finger, the inner world and the outer world, inner, outer, inner, outer. And that's what this oscillating genetic maneuver does. It combines your inner intangible reality with the outer world of manifested, you know, hard-edged objects, drinking water. Okay, I'm almost at the end of this recording. I'm going to make sure I got everything. Then we're going to move on to in level 2, and that's what the animation depicts. That's why I did that whole animation. P.S. Where did the animation come from? So many special thanks go to David Lear. I don't know if he's tuned in on this particular webinar today. I hope that maybe he'll catch this in the archive then. He's a student who's been in the class for several years, and he approached me in order to facilitate and encourage turning some of my drawings, like what I was showing you about the Merkaba, into animations that could greater depict, and also animations about the flying rainbow lasagna. So I did sketches and drawings and kind of like communicating in hieroglyphics, and David sent those sketches off to a professional animator who lives in Eastern Europe, who then created models and then also sent them back to me, and we back and forth until we came up with that. So it was a really fun and interesting creative process. The animation would not have been possible without the help of David, so I appreciate so much. And it's also the same student and participant who wrote that PDF of how to dance like a flying rainbow lasagna. So this is just like understanding, it's my approach, it's collaborative. Like I have these ideas that are raw material, like raw dough, and I'm always looking for other people to collaborate with, to be in collaborative creative partnership, add new flavors to the dough, add blueberries, add raisins, add new things, and come up with what that's about. So, and let me get to the rest of these questions before I sign off for this level. Oh, this is beautiful. All right, wait, both of these things are very beautiful. Pedro says, this is good. Sounds like we should start by wishing to fix the mirrors. That is excellent. Let me just stop for a moment. That is really thinking. Hold on, let me just make sure everybody's muted. There we go. That is really thinking like a computer software engineer of the cosmos. Because what we are doing, we're debugging. Then we have to debug because we're in it. We're all the things that we're experiencing in terms of death and disease and the degradation of the environment and harming of our consciousness. Those are the bugs in the system, the erroneous software programs that we don't want to have to experience. So what we are doing as first-person participants is debugging the system. That's how I think in my own personal thoughts. So when you're saying that one of the first things that we can begin with our imagining and with our wish making is to wish for a debugged system, that the distorted mirrors become clear mirrors. That's excellent thinking. That is exactly the type of things we should do with our Merkaba, much more than wishing for blueberry ice cream. Even though you can wish for blueberry ice cream, but you might get some, interesting, whatever feedback from the cosmos on that. So yeah, I really appreciate the idea of, it's like if you're given a magic wand, You can do a lot with the magic wand. You can do a lot more than merely wish for blueberry ice cream or something that serves yourself or is immediate gratification or comfort for you. You can say, how can I fix the entire system? How can I use a giant paintbrush to fix a large portion of the painting, as opposed to just painting with a tiny little skinny detail brush, some little details on my little life. So that's the truly effective way to use the Merkaba as a tool. And this is, yes, and that's Beth is agreeing. Yes, Pedro, I'm willing to FRL for that. That's it. This is like collaboration. We're collaborating together. So I mean, we can be clearing out the chemtrails. That was a big thing I wanted to say, and I had a wonderful confirmation of that. So we've been heavily chemtrailed in my area of Southern California, and as I was outside watching it all happening, I was, rather in dismay, and I reached out telepathically to all of the other participants who were willing to, be a part of this project, some of whom are in this class, and some of whom are, I don't know if they're tuned in at this exact moment, but yeah, I felt a lot of other people that were there on this project who were like, yeah, let's get rid of this crap. First of all, you don't need a magic machine to do it. You use your mind. You don't need some special materials to do it, like orgonite and plasterite. Those are wonderful. Those are like, symbols. They're like tools. Use your mind. All we need to do is use our mind and join it together in amplification. That's the whole idea of harmonics, that we amplify one another, and it grows and it grows and it grows and becomes something that is incredibly powerful and focused together. And so after I did all of that, so first when I was doing it, one of the craft that was emitting a white line stopped emitting in midair, and I felt all of these other participants doing it. I will not take full credit. It was totally a group effort. And then the next day, a person in the class, Simona, contacted me via message. Jump on up. Dog boss is feeling like she wants to be a part of things. Hey, guys. Hey. Simona contacted me, and she was like, hey, sorry, guys. I don't know if I'm going crazy, but did we just do some kind of group telepathic clearing of the chemtrails? And I was like, yes, thank you for the confirmation. So not that I doubt, not that I need this, but it's wonderful to have it. It's like, oh yes, that actually is what's going on. Hey, everybody, check. We got it. Cheeky needs some attention. Check it out. We're wearing a little sweater today because it's so cold outside. It's not very nice out. She's still being really good. Thank you. And I gave her the chew toy, and she chewed it up in 5 minutes, but then she was sitting peacefully. Thank you, guys. Yeah, she's actually being really good, considering how it's like a little kid on a rainy day, like how boring it is to have to stay inside. So hopefully tonight, but whatever. Collectively clearing the chemtrails, because that is a major impediment to our ascension process or gaining momentum. Ascension is raising our energy frequency, and there are things that bring us down or slow us down. Like we're runners trying to get up to speed. And there are many different types of pollutants. They can be nanoparticles, they can be uncontrolled EMFs, they can be thought structures that are trying to slow us down. So one of the first things is like, let's get rid of the sandbags that are tied around our ankles while we're trying to do this marathon. Let's do that. Like that's a very sensible first place to start. Oh, don't know what I just pressed. Okay, question. Yeah, Joel is saying thank you to David. Yeah, so once again, I don't know if he's tuned in on this particular whatever, but I emailed him, and I'm sure that he will get the appreciation. And he's a wonderful participant on this journey. So that's, and I like to give everybody credit for wonderful things that they do. Teddy's saying, I know you've said before, but would you mind reminding where I can get the PDF of how to dance like an FRL? So I've shared it by email. I've shared it in the group message for like everyone who wants to get notified of weekly webinars. And I've got a Dropbox link and I've got in some of the descriptions of some of the videos. Like I have it in the description of last week's live webinar of how to dance like a flying rainbow lasagna. So it's in the YouTube links. But if you need me to, I can send it to you again. Sorry, guys. Sorry, boss break. Sorry. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Let's check out more questions. Sorry, guys, you couldn't tell that this needs to happen here. Awesome. FRL to chemtrails. That's exactly what you do. Thank you so much. Good, 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 good. All right. Thank you. Thank you for understanding, guys. You missed something? Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is just spend the last few moments of this recording saying what I'm going to talk about in level 2. So level 2, I'm going to talk about how we transform that basic star tetrahedron shape into an octahedron. because what we have are all of these sides that are equilateral with 60-degree angles, and they make up these star tetrahedra, but we're going to transform them into, instead of 2 shapes with 4 sides, 1 shape with 8 sides. And this is a maneuver of perception. It's very similar to the type of maneuver that we do when you look at like an optical illusion, that you can interpret it one way, then you can interpret it the other way, then you can switch back. You haven't actually changed the lines of the drawing. The drawing is what it is, but what happens is you're changing your levels of interpretation. So this is the advanced application of the Merkaba. And also, I'm not trying to say that these are the only things that you can do with the Merkaba shape. You can do all sorts of things, just like a piano or an electric guitar. Like, go wild, do your own thing with it. And these are like the basic structures of things that you can do, and you don't have to just reinvent everything, but it can be good to have examples of what's already been done with something, but then always innovate. I definitely highly encourage everyone to innovate. So also, where did I learn this from? So I learned about the concept of the Merkaba and the shape of the Merkaba by, reading material about it. But then what I did was I used my inner telescope, my higher senses of perception, to look at it, to feel it around my body, to feel what happens. It's just like learning how to walk. You can be like, oh, first I read an article about this thing that you can do that's called walking, and then I tried to do it myself. So that's the type of exploration I would encourage everyone to do. Your own personal application of this to your own personal body structure and your own personal life structure. So let me wrap up level 1. Anybody, whatever, tune into level 2, and then we'll get into the actual, this has been like how to run on the hamster wheel. And that's why some people have a valid criticism if they're like, oh, the Merkaba, that just lets you run on a hamster wheel and stand in one place and not do anything that's very interesting. Unless you get the 3rd teaching, which is how to actually get out of this level of reality using, this interdimensional tool for travel. So it's like, you're not just running on a treadmill, you're not just training for the marathon, it's how to run the actual marathon. So ending for level 1, but moving on to level 2. Thank you very much.